When I was about 50 years old, I had to go on a trip to Soviet Russia. I had a good friend in England. His name was Anil Jha. He would like to pay my fare. And so he paid my fare, and that's why I went on a trip to Soviet Russia. And I went from London to Moscow. That's how my travel started. And I was in a tour group. There were quite a few British citizens there. And gradually I got to know them. So there was a lady who was a retired high school teacher, and she became very friendly with me. And she had heard that I was a Hindu Swami, and I had to preach Vedanta in America. Then she told me one day, Swami, I can tell you something which you may be able to use in your sermons. I have heard that Americans like humor, so this will be a good story to use while giving your sermon in America. Then she told me the story. She said that there was an English gentleman named John, and he had a Chinese friend. And they were friends for many years. Then one day the Chinese friend said to John, let us go on a trip to China. And I will go with you, the Chinese friend said. And John agreed. Then they went to a certain village in China. That's where the Chinese friend had come from. And after arriving there, the Chinese friend said to John, John, you have to give a lecture here. John was surprised and said, in which language? In English? And he said, no. Nobody will understand English here. So, then how can I give a lecture? And the Chinese friend said, don't worry. Just nod to the people. Bow down to them. And that will be enough. And the hall was filled with people. And so John stood up and bowed to the front. And then came a shower of flowers and other things. That is the welcoming gesture of the people of that village. John got encouraged. He stood up again and he bowed to the front, he bowed to the left, and he bowed to the right. And then when he sat down, there came a shower of old shoes, eggs, and all that. John was surprised. He asked his Chinese friend, what have I done? Then the Chinese friend said, no, you have not done anything. But we Chinese don't like long lectures. So that lady, British lady, told this story to me, and he said, you can use this while giving your sermons in America. That means sermons have to be brief. Long sermons will lull people to sleep. So I shall remember this while giving this talk. Now, to repeat, this subject of my talk this morning is how to overcome obstacles in meditation. In our country, there is a saying in Sanskrit, Shreyangshi Bahuvignani. That is, when you want to do something good, then you will face many obstacles. So meditation is something which can help a person to experience divinity. That's why there will be obstacles. And the first obstacle that a person will encounter is the obstacle of not having the proper teacher for meditation. There are many fake teachers. Even Jesus Christ cautioned his followers by saying, beware, there are many false prophets. So, to choose a teacher, you should see the teacher's lineage. Is he the student of a really a genuine saint or so on? And then only one should go to such a teacher. So, we have to be aware of false teachers to learn meditation. There is a story in America which I read. There is a person, his name was also John. He was married, but his married life was not very peaceful. There were frequent quarrels, and so he had no peace. So while driving along the street of the city, he saw a big sign, and with the picture of a great yogi with beard and long matted hair, and the sign said, "Here is a yogi from the Himalayan mountains, Indian yogi, and he teaches meditation. And meditation can solve all your problems of life. Please come and learn how to meditate from this great yogi. You have to pay a fee of only $3,000. John was desperate, so he paid that money and learned whatever that teacher had to teach. The teacher asked him to sit on a chair and keep his backbone erect and chant a holy name. That was the meditation the teacher taught him. It is in India we call it chanting or japa. But the teacher said it was meditation, and for that the teacher charged $3,000. So following the teacher's instruction, John started sitting with his backbone erect and tried to meditate. His wife saw this change in him, and one day she became very displeased and angry, and he said, "What are you doing there, sitting there quietly with your eyes shut? I asked you to take the garbage out, but you didn't do it. I asked you to repair the faucet that we have in the basement, and you didn't do it." Like that, the wife started blaming him for many things which she had asked John to do, but John did not do. And then John kept quiet and did not say anything. With his eyes shut, he sat erect because he was meditating. And then his wife got very angry and said, "I have had enough." And then she went out, and John could hear his wife's car making the sound. That means it is living. Then John opened his eyes and said, "Yes, it is true. Meditation really works. So now I have peace." So that's the story. So meditation really works. Really works, but even in doing meditation under the instructions of a proper teacher. Some obstacles will come. As I said, if you want to do something good, there will always be, you will face many obstacles. So, the mind meditation means learning how to concentrate the mind. It has to be 100% concentrated. And if the mind can be concentrated that way, it becomes like a laser beam. In a laser beam, all the photons move in a straight line. And a laser beam can easily reach the moon if we focus it from Earth. It's so concentrated. So this concentrated mind can pierce through the boundary of time, space and causation, so to say. And beyond that is divinity. Divinity is beyond time, space and causation. And that divinity is also in everything that we see in this world. It is equally present but not equally manifest. In some, it is more manifest. And we are like so many light bulbs. The light is divinity. And only those who have minds, they have this divinity manifested in them. Mindless objects have the same divinity, but there is no manifestation. So to manifest our divinity, we need our minds. And through meditation, that divinity can be fully manifested. And then we transcend our minds. Anyway, now what are the obstacles? Let me talk about that. There was a great teacher of yoga. His name was Sadananda Yogendra. He wrote a book called Vedanta Sara. There we read about 4 well-known obstacles. They are in Sanskrit Laya, Vikshepa, Kashaya and Rasaswada. Laya means, Laya is a kind of obstacle. When the mind is in that state, then it is sleepy. While trying to meditate, many people will feel that obstacle. That is, the mind will become sleepy. This obstacle has to be overcome. So, but there are some people who may consider that Laya has some kind of great spiritual experience. And those who come to learn meditation, the teacher tells them that the mind, which is usually restless, when it is concentrated, it achieves a stage which is called samadhi. At that time, the mind becomes one with divinity. And that is a state of perpetual bliss. There is no suffering there. So those who are students of meditation, they know about this goal, and that's why while meditating sometimes they fall asleep and they think that that is samadhi. So one of our Swamis was in Europe and he was teaching some students. So one student one day came to him. The student was very elated, and the student said to the Swami, Swami, I have had samadhi. Then on inquiry, the Swami could understand that the student did not have samadhi, had not had samadhi. What the student had was loya. His mind became sleepy and fell asleep. That is an obstacle. But the Swami told that student, this is not samadhi, this is an obstacle and you are stuck there. You have to go beyond it. And the student didn't like it and left him and went to some other teacher. This is interesting. Lawyer. And the second obstacle which is encountered by a meditator is vikshepa in Sanskrit, which means wandering of the mind. The mind keeps on wandering, here, there, and how to make the mind stop wandering. So, then those who are students of meditation, they are told that they should try to do two things. First thing is to exercise some willpower and stop the mind from wandering. Otherwise the mind goes from one object to another object and it cannot meditate. And the other method is to let the mind go on wandering. The meditator should say, well, my mind, you go and wander wherever you want, but I will watch you. And when the meditator does that, after a while the mind doesn't wander. And then the mind is fit for meditation. And the third obstacle which is encountered by meditators is called kashaya. Kashaya is a mental drought, sort of. Our mind is the repository of all the thoughts that we think. Not a single thought is lost. And these thoughts remain there in the subconscious mind. And we can bring up some of those thoughts. For example, let us suppose it is evening and in the morning I ate my breakfast. And during my breakfast I ate a piece of buttered toast. And I can remember that in the evening. This remembering is no other than bringing out that old thought which is there. And that is also done by the mind. And all the thoughts that we have thought in our life, they're all in the mind. Not a single thought is gone. And they're in the subconscious mind. So, if I consider each thought as a vector by borrowing a mathematical term, then the resultant effect of all those thoughts, good and bad and all, will be the obstacle which is kashaya. Mind will become sort of dry. Yes. So, how to overcome these obstacles? Well, the teachers say that you can do one thing. If you are fond of devotional music, try to listen to that, and then your mind will become calm. Or think of some saint whose mind is calm. Thinking of him will gradually make your mind ready for meditation. that mental drought will be gone. And the fourth obstacle is rasaswada in Sanskrit, which means tasting some intermediate joy on the path of meditation. Some meditators who have progressed quite a bit, they may find some joy at one time and they get stuck there. They don't want to progress anymore. If they progress, then they can have that samadhi where the mind becomes one with divinity. And so this is rasaswada. This is on the path of meditation. One experiences some joyful experience and gets stuck there. But one has to transcend that. So there is a story, a parable, that is a woodcutter. A woodcutter would go to the forest and cut wood, means cut the trees and bring the wood home, and that's how he would maintain his family, by selling the wood. Then one day he met a holy man. The holy man said, "Why do you stop here? You go further ahead, and then you'll be richer." And that man believed in the holy man, and then after a while he thought, the holy man asked me to go ahead, further ahead. So he went further ahead and found a forest of sandalwood trees. He was very happy. Sandalwood is very expensive. And then he cut some of those trees and brought that sandalwood home, and selling that sandalwood he became fairly rich. Then one day that thought came, but the holy man did not want me to stop. He said, he asked me to go further ahead. So let me go further ahead. Then he went further ahead and he found a copper mine. And then got the copper ore and sold that and became richer. Then after a while, the holy man didn't ask me to stop. He asked me to go further ahead. Then he went further ahead and then he found a gold mine, and then after that he went ahead and he found a diamond mine, and he became awfully rich. That was the goal. So also, until a person has samadhi experience, that means samadhi means union with divinity. The mind becomes one with divinity. And one should go further ahead. One should make effort to go further ahead. This is how to overcome that obstacle, which is called getting stuck in an intermediate joyful experience on the path of meditation. Okay. Now this is what Sadananda Yogindra teaches us. But there was another great saint. His name was Patanjali. He was a great teacher of meditation. He existed, according to scholars, around 400 BC. According to him, there are 5 major obstacles to spiritual life. I mean to meditation. And they are in Sanskrit, avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha and abhinivesha. Avidya means lack of proper knowledge. And we are divine, but we are not aware of it. Why we are not aware of it? Because the mind stands in the way. The other day I told you that the owner and the object owned cannot be the same. If you own a car, then you cannot be that car because you are the owner. In the same way, you own your physical body, so you cannot be your physical body. You can't be your physical strength. You can't be your senses, sense organs, because you are the owner of all of them. And what about your mind? It is, you own that mind, so as the owner, you have to be different from your mind. But something has happened there. Your idea of individual existence is a thought of your conscious mind. So, you're still, somehow you have become entangled with your mind and you cannot get out of it. You're the owner, but you cannot think that you are the owner. If you are the owner, then you cannot be having your ego, which is mental. So you have to transcend it. So this ego is the obstacle, according to Patanjali. Ego is the obstacle. Somehow if we can get rid of that ego, then we transcend our mind and we become what we really are, divinity. So it is this ego which causes selfishness. And from selfishness comes attachment to objects that give us pleasure. And if some obstacle is there in acquiring that object or those objects of pleasure, then we become angry, aversion or anger. So, a person had a good wife in California. I read about that in the newspaper many years ago. And at least he thought that she was good and he was very much attracted to her. But after a while, his wife started behaving very differently. The wife was not interested in him. So she wanted a divorce. And after the divorce, and he had to give away the house to his wife. And then anger came. His attachment to his wife turned into anger. And then what he did was, one day he went and set fire to that house. Meanwhile, the police got to know about it and caught him, put him to jail. And this is why he did such a thing, setting fire to the house he had to give to his wife. Because his attachment to her turned into anger or aversion to her. And the fifth obstacle is called abhinivesha. Abhinivesha is clinging to this life. There is a parable associated with this abhinivesha. There is there was an old lady. One day she went to the forest, and there were many windfalls there. And she thought, she was also poor, she thought, let me carry some of these branches home, then that will save me a lot of money. Then she made a huge bundle of those branches which had fallen from the tree. It had happened because there was a storm that broke down those branches. And she made a huge bundle. But while she wanted to carry it, she could not do it because she was older and she did not have the strength to lift that bundle. Then she got disgusted with life and she said, "O King of Death," and King of Death in India is called Yama in Hinduism. "O King of Death, please come and take me away from this world. This world is no good for me." And then the King of Death appeared there. He said, "Here I am." By seeing the King of Death or the Yama, the lady said, no, I don't want to go with you. Please put this bundle on my shoulder. I want to carry this home. This is called clinging to life, to this life. People have such clinging to their life. Even if they are suffering from many illnesses, still they want to live. They don't want to die. That's why many saints say, know that death is inevitable. Facing death with dignity depends on the person's mind. So, abhinivesha is there. When there's clinging to life, then the person will not be able to meditate. And when there is clinging to life, there will be attachment. And there are many stories in our scriptures showing how people become attached. And at the point of death, the person will think of the objects of attachment. There is a story in our tradition that there was a king who became very attached to a deer. And when he was dying, he remembered the deer. His attached mind was thinking of the deer. Oh, what is the deer mind? And then after his death, according to the story, he reincarnated as a deer. But I will give a talk on reincarnation some other time, and then I will discuss all those things. So, people have attachment to their bodies. Other than these obstacles, there are many obstacles. One obstacle is craving for power and position, or fame, name, fame, power and position. Even those who become monks, they may have these obstacles. They have to overcome that. And when I joined the monastery as a young man, I had to give some personal service to the Swami who was in charge of that center in India. He was a saintly monk. And I had to bring his food to his room because he was old enough. He could not go to the kitchen to eat or to the dining room to eat. And he gave me a very good advice. He said, the other day I went to the toilet and there I saw that you have put there's a bucket full of water and a mug that was also full of water. May I know why you do those things? Because in those days in bathrooms we did not have automatic flush system. So there is a small tap in the bathroom from where we could get water, and that water would be collected in a bucket. And there'd be a mug also, because the Indians are not used to toilet paper, but they are used to something like bidet. They want to wash that region of the body with water. So, but when he said, why do you fill the bucket with water and also the mug? I want to know. Then I said to the Swami, that is, our center is not very rich, so I thought it would be good if the bucket is full of water and the mug also. Otherwise, if it is empty, then it will have a time to rust faster. That's what I thought. And he said, all right, I have heard your explanation, but I can teach you something. You have to learn to serve without expectation of any praise. That is called silent service. Otherwise, people give service and they expect some praise. That can be an obstacle in spiritual life. So, he said, you clean the toilet as best as you can and make the toilet ready for the next user. What you are doing is good, because the next user will be able to use the water that you have collected for him or her. That is good. But no one should know that you have done that, given that service. And this is called giving silent service, without any expectation of praise or appreciation. Since then, and I've been a monk for maybe 63 or 64 years, and I've been following that. While here I had to fly by plane many times, several hundred times. It was on invitation. I had to go to different countries and places. And whenever I fly by the plane, when I use the toilet, I keep it clean for the next user. That is my service. And such similar silent service we can give. We should serve people without the slightest expectation of any kind of appreciation or praise. So that is good. And expecting name and fame, that is also an obstacle. We had a Swami who was quite educated, highly educated, and he would write articles for our journals in India sometimes. And that Swami one day was requested by an American publisher and said, we will publish your articles. But to do that, he had to get the permission of the General Secretary. The General Secretary was Swami Bhaskarananda. Then he went to Swami Bhaskarananda and asked for permission. Then it is a policy of our order to publish books through our centers. Some centers publish books and not through any other publisher. That was the policy at that time. And then he said, no, you can't do that, we cannot permit you, I'm sorry. But the Swami was very upset. And as a result of that, he left the headquarters. He was living at the headquarters, left the headquarters and went to Banaras, the holy city. And there he was not staying in any of our ashramas. He left the order and left the order, and eventually in Banaras he became very ill and he could not get out of his room where he was staying on that place. And then our Swamis in Benaras, they went from our hospital center that we have there and brought him there. And then in the hospital he passed away because his condition was very bad. So this is what happened because he had a little craving for fame. So craving for name, fame, power and position, they should not be there. That is, one should crush one's ego. As I said the other day during my talk, a young man had joined the order. Then an elderly Swami said to him, "Do you know the name of the monastic order which you have joined?" And in our order in India is called the Ramakrishna Order, and also sometimes Ramakrishna Mission. So the young man said to the elderly Swami, "Well, I have joined the Ramakrishna Mission." Then the elderly Swami said, "No, it is not Ramakrishna Mission, it is Ramakrishna Machine." What kind of machine? Ego crushing machine. Your false ego should go. And when that will go, then divinity will become manifested. That is the goal of monastic life. That's how the teacher taught that young Swami. So, therefore, we have to be careful about this obstacle. Craving for name, praise, power or position. It is very difficult for musicians to do proper meditation if they want to do meditation, because they have great craving for praise. The musicians, when they perform, they want praise from people. That is how it is. We here in Seattle, we have sometimes some celebrations. At that time, we invite the singers and others to come and perform. Then I tell them that is while performing, think that you are performing for the pleasure of God, not for people. Yes, this is it. We have to do that. Craving for name and fame, that can be an obstacle also. So I talked for 45 minutes and I think it is a good time to stop. Thank you all very much for listening.